Thanks, Josh. The House looks likely to vote on a bill lifting the ban on oil exports. Does the White House have a position on this bill and the topic in general?
Well, what I can tell you, Byron, is that we've got a position on this, which is that this is a policy decision that is made over at the Commerce Department. And for that reason, we wouldn't support legislation like the one that's been put forward by Republicans. And so this is so for an update on our position, if one is necessary, you can consult with the Commerce Department. The one thing that I would note is that this policy announcement is being made by Leader McCarthy in front of an organization in Houston that is largely funded by 4 or 5 of the biggest oil companies in the United States. So it is pretty clear, once again, where Republicans in Congress and their political benefactors stand when it comes to their energy policy priorities. The fact is, I think Leader McCarthy has an opportunity to demonstrate some true political courage, where he could go and stand before that organization and actually offer up something bold, but also common sense, which is to end the billions in subsidies that oil and gas companies in the United States already enjoy, and actually use that money to ensure the long-term success of our economy and the energy sector in this country by making important investments in things like wind energy and solar energy, investments that even some of those oil companies themselves have bragged about making.
Okay, also following up on something you said yesterday about the House bill to lift the ban on crude oil exports, you said the White House does not support that bill because you think it's a decision the Commerce Department should make, but does that mean that the President would veto that bill should it make it to his desk?
Well, I don't have a veto threat to issue at this point, but clearly it's not a piece of legislation that we support because of, this is essentially the domain of the Commerce Department.
Switching topics, the House Energy Committee passed a bill today to end the ban on oil exports, and I know you said the White House doesn't support that legislation. Now that it's starting to move through the process, can you say whether that's something the President would veto if it ends up getting to his desk? Because there is a lot of support for it in the houses of Congress.
Well, I don't have a specific veto threat to offer at this point, but our position on this bill is crystal clear.
And you're crystal clear against this particular bill.
That's correct.
But you're not necessarily crystal clear against another bill that would lift the ban on oil? Is it something about this bill in particular beyond the basic fact of lifting the ban on oil?
We are opposed to this bill, and the reason that we oppose the bill is because this is a decision that actually can be made and should be made, in our view, by the Commerce Department.
So it's a jurisdictional.
It doesn't require an act of Congress to make this policy decision. So we believe that the Commerce Department has access to all of the expertise and information that they need to set this policy. Okay.
You've said that the power to determine oil export rules properly belongs at the Commerce Department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
If memory serves, didn't the President propose eliminating the Commerce Department? And if he still supports that plan, what agency does he think that power belongs to or should belong to? And why not Congress?
Byron, I believe what the President proposed several years ago is merging the Commerce Department with a number of other government agencies that have, I think, what you could call overlapping jurisdictions. This is a process that got started over at OMB, I believe, to start taking a look at this. But ironically, we've run into some pretty stiff congressional opposition to putting in place what I think would otherwise could be described as some pretty common sense reforms. The goal of making those changes is not to shirk basic governmental responsibility, like determining policies about oil exports, but rather to make sure that those policies are made and coordinated more efficiently. That was the goal of that particular proposal, but it hasn't made much progress in the face of stiff opposition from Republicans in Capitol Hill.
But under those common sense reforms, where would the power to determine oil exports go? Do you know?
Presumably, it would. I haven't looked at those specific proposals in quite some time. I don't know if there was a proposal to move it to another existing agency, or if it would, or if that authority would reside in the newly formed agency. Okay, Mark.